first one because it's an icebreaker speech. You get to learn about a new Toastmaster. And he's extra warm to my heart because he's from the land of freedom, from America. So congratulations on that, Jeremy. And besides that, he has a love for psychology and understanding the human mind and how people behave. And the reason he joined Toastmasters in the first place is to take a more proactive role in enhancing his leadership and networking skills. So please help me give a warm welcome to Toastmaster Jeremy.
Greetings, Toastmasters and guests. I've titled this talk, Who Am I? Perhaps there's no more simple yet profound question. On the simple and perhaps boring end of the spectrum, I am Jeremy Sutton from Seattle in the United States. But more deeply, this topic points to our sense of self, our sense of identity, and who we believe ourselves to be. And identity is at the heart of most of the conflict in the world today. And most importantly for this talk, it is also one of the keys to the deepest and single most widespread desire of people throughout time and across the world. The desire for happiness. My personal interest in this topic really started about 6 years ago when I went on a trip to Puerto Vallarta with my sister. And on that trip, I met a beautiful young woman named Ryoko Takayama from Japan. She happened to be traveling alone, so we invited her to the beach with us. And it turned out she was living no more than 8 blocks away from me in Seattle at the time of our meeting. This event kicked in a whirlwind romance and one that profoundly shaped my life. Yet, at the time of our meeting, I had already planned a year-long foreign exchange to South America, Buenos Aires. And as the event of departure arrived more closely, I found myself behaving in a way I can only describe now as self-centered and short-sighted. Unfortunately, this resulted in a split-up, and I broke Ryoko's heart. And this split-up sent me in a downward spiral for about 2 years, trying to investigate why I behaved so, and why I didn't live up to my highest standards. I felt a sense of split in my own personality. And as I dug more deeply into this topic, I found that I'm not the only one who has a dualistic view of the mind. In fact, I found Freud, for example, has the view of the ego between the id and the superconscious. Another example is the angel, the devil on our shoulder, kind of whispering in our ear. Some people call it our instinctual animalistic nature compared to our higher human intellect. And others just call it the ego versus the higher self. And it turns out that we all have these two entities at least within us. If you will, think back perhaps to your first memory. Some people have a traumatic experience or perhaps an exciting event, but most of us just started waking up one day, around 2 to 4 years old, and it was pretty uneventful because we had already been doing it for so long. What kept us alive for those first 2 years of life? Well, it's our instinct. And that instinct can be thought of as a spear. And as our brain developed enough, our sense of identity emerged within that already existing structure of instinct. When our sense of self emerges, that instinct is so far-reaching that it's pretty much invisible. It is everything that is around us. But psychological development is predicated largely on the expansion of awareness. And by the time we reach about 18 to 20 years old, our sense of identity tends to be completely locked within that egoic self. That is to say, I don't have thoughts, I am my thoughts. I don't have hunger, I am hungry. The highest reaches of psychological development tends to be defined by expanding our awareness beyond that limited sense of ego. And I mentioned this story about Ryoko today because there are very few drives that can break us free of those egoic constraints. Specifically, Ryoko and I have since reemerged, and we are now engaged as of April this year. And the reason I bring this up is because love is one of the few forces that can free us from that relationship of our ego. And this is because before we are truly in love, we cannot really imagine caring about anyone or anything else more than we care about ourselves. So this marks a new experience in our lives. this brings us back to the initial topic, which is the key to happiness. Philosopher Dan Dennett argues that the key to happiness is to find something, a relationship, a family, a deeper cause, something that we consider to be more important than ourself, more important than our egoic nature, and then dedicate our lives to that thing. One of the few drives that can help us expand our identity beyond that limited self, and thus realize the deepest, most satisfying realms of happiness is love. Thank you very much.
Inspiring to hear a new Toastmaster come in. He already knows how he's going to benefit the world.